I figure we'll get started. People are pretty much in. So, my name is Jonathan. I'll just give a brief introduction. This is my third talk for today. This hopefully is the one you all signed up for. And the text I gave is about getting out of your own way, challenges to our physical, mental, or emotional health that we face daily as busy professionals and parents, multiple simple and practical strategies to ensure personal progress while handling the adversity that life throws at us. Hopefully you all are in the right place. I know I am. This is my favorite of my 3 talks, so I'm excited to start. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself before I get started. I am not a born athlete. I grew up right up the river in Ossining, went to OHS class of '89. I was on the tennis team. When I say on the team, I mean like they let me carry a racket. Not competitive. I was too small, too slow, too weak. I was never an athlete as a child. Anything I've accomplished was later on. I've given 3 talks today, like I said. One of them was about my personal journey. I'll just briefly tell you, I'm standing before you because I did transform myself from somebody who weighed 241 pounds and was a pack-a-day smoker and clinically depressed and suicidal to somebody who completed the Hawaii Ironman in 2011. So, thank you. This is my favorite talk of the 3. Because I'm going to show you how I did it. I'm going to give you tips and tricks and mindsets and ways of thinking. Like I said in the title slide, getting out of your own way. We are by far our biggest obstacles to achieving anything. By far. So this is my favorite talk because I have a collection of thoughts and tenets and beliefs that I've assembled in this slide that I'm going to share with you. To start, I'm going to start with a video.
Welcome to NBC Sports presentation of the Ford Ironman World Championship. There is a time and there is a place that can crush them. But the possibility brings them to the here and now. Of swimming 2.4 miles, biking 112, and then running a 26.2-mile marathon. They have been warned by those who came before them.
You train in the course and you prepare yourself mentally for the battle, but you really can't get to that mental state until you're faced with it on race day.
One of the things in life nobody can buy, and this is something that you have to earn.
The more difficult the challenge, the more fruitful the reward.
Throughout the day, you go through several times where you're like, I don't know if I can do this.
You have to be willing to go to that next level.
You got to be mentally ready to dig down to this place inside you that you've never been. Down to just how much you really want it.
You go through every single emotion, and I think when you cross that finish line, it's worth it.
Surprise. So, I got included in the NBC footage after the race, which led to a number of things, not least importantly, me standing here and talking to you kind folks. So I want to share with you things that I've done, things that I've learned, things that I believe that will help you get to the starting line of whatever your Ironman, I use the word Ironman in quotes, is. Okay? This was Wellness Day, and when you think about it, why do we even need a wellness day? Okay, who here doesn't have any stress, right? I mean, seriously, we all have careers and families and kids and issues and emotions and feelings. And what I'm here to tell you is what separates the people who do things versus the people who think about doing things, other than the fact that they do them, is their attitude and their mental six-pack, their mindset on how they handle adversity and what they choose to do in the face of the adversity. It's not the absence of fear, it's not the absence of emotions, it's the mastery of them, and it's the application of just control and discipline. Those sound like big fancy words. It's actually very important, and so I'm going to break that down. I'm going to talk to you about things that I think are crucially important in achieving whatever it is you want to achieve, whether it's something fitness related like this, whatever your Ironman is going to be. Hopefully you'll leave here with a spark in a powder keg, and something might have been in the back burner of your mind that you wanted to achieve or accomplish. And so I'm going to share with you some tenets that worked for me in getting to the starting line of my Ironman. Okay? I'm going to tell you, as a physician, my specialty is interventional radiology, so I stabbed people in the groin with catheters and wires all day long and did cases on people with horrible, horrible arteries. And the most disappointing and frustrating thing was to sacrifice half my life training for a profession and then being charged with caring for folks who, for lack of a better phrase, were not taking the best care of themselves. We are our worst enemies by far. Cardiovascular disease, diabetes, hypertension, stroke. These are all things that, for the most part, can be avoided or at least severely and drastically deferred based on the choices that we make. Now, you don't need me or my medical degree to tell you this. You guys are all teachers. First of all, I want to just preface this by saying I am fully aware. A friend of mine who was a teacher said, you realize that teachers are the ones that like to be in the front lecturing other people. They don't like being lectured to by people. So I get that. I'm just going to speak to you from a place where I've come from over the last 5 or 10 years in my career and also in my fitness pursuits. And just things that I've discovered, I've learned along the way. Things that I've learned sometimes the hard way. But these diseases, you know, for the most part, I mean, there's certain types of cancers that we don't know why they're caused and they're horrible to get. But there's a lot of disease out there that is just self-imposed, okay? We do this to ourselves. I'm going to speak about that a little bit later, with our vices, with our choices, with our habits. I gave one talk on actual tools and math and things for how to manage your body weight and how to make healthy choices and things like that. But honestly, no one in this room needs that. We all know, right? It's simple, right? It's simple. Diet and exercise. Right? It's not rocket surgery. The joke is, right? It's not rocket science. It's diet and exercise. It's really that simple, or is it? Right? That's why I chose the title for my talk, "How to Get Out of Your Own Way," and so I want to share with you the things that I'm going to share with you. So before I start, again, you saw that video, but I do believe in validity, and you know, I've sat in chairs and been lectured to for well over 3/4 of my life in medical training and graduate school and stuff. So the first thing I would always ask is, who is this guy and what are they trying to tell me and who do they think they are? So this is a before picture. Note the belly. After. Before. After. This race is right up the road in Croton. Tough Man is a half Ironman, which myself and my fiance will be returning to do this September in Croton. Before, after. And before, after. This is the Runner's World issue, December 2012, entitled "The Runner's Body," something I never and still don't think I have. I always thought runners were built like bean poles, and especially triathletes. We are all works in progress. I'm showing you these pictures, again, in the name of validity, so the things that I'm about to say hopefully hold some validity. All right, I want to start with a story. So, in my last two talks, I kind of detailed my journey, my personal journey, and I shared some pretty dark places where I was. One of them was a surgical resident, an interventional radiology fellow, in an unhappy marriage, clinically depressed, 241 pounds, ex-smoker, miserable, dark, black place. And I was in therapy. I had actually been in therapy much of my life, and for depression. And it turns out I just had kept changing the wrong things in my life. But there was one interaction with one particular therapist I want to share with you to start off this talk. And I would go to therapy every week, and it's like traditional psychodynamic therapy. So the therapist was very Freudian, elderly woman with glasses, and she would sit, I'd sit on the couch, always a couch, right? I'd sit on the couch and I'm talking, and she's sitting with her legs crossed and writing, and I'm just talking as free-form association. I'm spilling my heart, and she's writing, and occasionally she'd look up and say, uh-huh, or go on, and it was, you know, the true blank slate Freudian psychiatry. And so I went through this for several years. Every week, I kept coming back, and once in a while, I would just say, "Hey, how am I doing? You know, when do I graduate? Right? Like, how do you think I'm doing?" And she, without fail, every time would just stop writing, look up, and she'd kind of smile, and she'd say, "What do you think about that?" And I'd start talking about something else, and I'd come back. Well, this went on for years. But one time I got really angry, and I mean, one time I was like, I don't understand. I keep coming here every week. I borrowed money to come see you, and I pour out my heart to you, and you're sitting there writing. For all I know, you're drawing pictures of horses. I have no idea what you're doing back there. Why can't you please just tell me something? And she would stop, and she looked at me and said, I don't know. What do you think about that? And I stormed out. And yet I came back. And this went on for maybe another year. And finally, and I was at a different point in my life, and I made some decisions that led me to this place. I strode into her office in between patients at an unscheduled time for me, and I waited patiently for her to be done with her current patient. And she came out, and I said, Doctor, I want to thank you for your time. Over the last couple of years, I said, while it's been stressful and confusing at times, I said, I think this has really helped me. You know, I just want to thank you for your time, but I'm not going to need to be coming back anymore. And she took off her glasses, and she looked me right in the eyes, and she smiled, and she said, so what do you think about that? And it took me a couple of years to actually process exactly what happened, okay? I'm telling you this story for a reason. This slide starts out the only true possession. The answer is self-possession. Okay, that's actually in Sidney J. Harris's essay, which is my favorite essay, Do You Act or React? It's the last line in it. It was written at least 25 years ago, and it's one of my favorite writings. If you haven't read it, Google it. It talks about being in control of your actions and your own destiny, not letting anyone or anything affect you, but most importantly, the only true possession is self-possession. She knew that she couldn't give me the answers that I needed. She knew she had to watch, as painful as it probably was a train wreck to watch, me struggle through my stuff. But once I got to the point where I said, I'm done with therapy, that was actually the answer I had been searching for all along and just didn't even know. I had been projecting my capacity to decide, to choose, to dictate the course of my life on someone else, a therapist who didn't know me from Adam. We do this all the time. We do this with a lot of things that we don't even realize we're doing it, whether it's our kids, maybe our students. We sort of tie our hands and we let fate, or we project the decision of an outcome on an external force. It kind of excuses us from taking risks. And sometimes it's comfortable. I want to talk about something that I call cognitive dissonance. It's not my term, it's a medical term. I'm not going to give you the medical term that we learned in psychiatry on our rotations and stuff. I'm going to give you my definition of cognitive dissonance, and I want to see if anyone here can relate. Because when I was in that place, that stressful, clinically depressed, suicidal place, or even sometimes like one day last week for no apparent reason, just randomly, we start feeling down. We feel down about ourselves. We second guess things. And so cognitive dissonance, my definition of it, is when what you want to do, what you should be doing, and what you actually are doing are three entirely different things. And if you think about them as a triangle, or buoys in the ocean, for example, and you're treading water right in the middle, does anybody feel like that ever? That they're just treading water, they're just going through the motions, mailing it in, there's a million analogies for it. But the fact of the matter is you're stuck between what you are doing, what you should be doing, and what you want to be doing. And every time you start swimming towards one of those buoys, you get pulled right back. You get pulled back in the other direction. I want to be doing this, I want to work out more, I want to be healthy, but I'm eating Cheetos and peanut butter cups. You know, I should be doing this, but I am doing this. I want to be doing this. I deserve to be doing this. This happens inside of us more often than we realize. It's, in my mind, at least from personal experience, it's probably the #1 cause of stress is internal. These conflicts between what we want to do and what we should be doing and what we are doing. Cognitive dissonance. So my goal today is to share with you some of my coping strategies and ways that I've learned not to just pretend it doesn't exist, this angst or this adversity we face or this internal conflict, but to work with your own personal struggles to get you out of your own way. Okay. First and foremost, right here, right now, we all need to be accountable for who we are, why we are, where we are. Right this second. Every decision you've ever made, it's okay. Good, bad, or otherwise. Everything. Your choices, your results, your wants, your needs, your desires, your decisions, good and bad. It's all okay. Because it's made you, you. It's given you the you of your you-ness, that has made you what you are. It's brought you to this moment. It has not doomed you to a life of fill in the blank. If fill in the blank means unhealthiness, unwellness, obesity, dissatisfaction, we're going to talk about that. Just personal feelings, not liking what you see when your reflection stares back at you, all those things. The feelings surrounding them are okay. The facts leading up to them, you have to own. It's not a punishment or a curse. It's a good thing. It's actually a blessing. Because once you accomplish that, once you take accountability and own stuff, your ability to get out of your own way increases markedly. One thing, this was a strategy I used for a different lecture, but logging and tracking everything from a fitness standpoint, the first thing I started doing when I was 241 pounds in January 1st, 2010, is I bought this scale, which wirelessly transmits my body weight, my body fat, at the time, and a couple other parameters. It wirelessly transmitted it to an account, and then that pushed it automatically through the cloud. Nobody understands the cloud, right? To my iPhone, and I would get this graph every day. Talk about a reality check. And so I noticed that as I did more work and focused on myself, I had more success. Now, success is not a straight line. Anyone notice that? All over the map. But the trend went very well leading up to that Hawaii Ironman, which was in October of 2011. I was at my leanest. This is 2015 right now. I am not at my leanest. I'm probably about 10 pounds up from my race weight. I'm okay with that. It's because of the decisions I've made this year. And it's going to change. Just mark my words, when I show up to that Tough Man race in September, I'm going to be back down here. Because I'm going to make it so. Because I take ownership. But here's the thing. You can't know where you are. If you asked me for directions to my house, and you said, how do I get to your house from here? How could I tell you if we don't know where here is? It's the same thing. If losing weight, for example, is something you want to do, or anything, you have to start somewhere, and you have to own it, and you have to track it. And that's the only way, because otherwise you're in the dark. But 2 points, that's a line, right? You guys are teachers. 3 points becomes a trend, habits. And pretty soon you start getting success and results in something that you want, and it becomes a positive feedback cycle. All right, so I'm putting this picture here for several reasons. This is my license plate. It says relentless. It's something I truly believe in, and it's because we have to be relentless in everything we do, but specifically, we need to be exquisitely and relentlessly aware. Aware of how we're feeling, aware of how we're feeling is affecting what we're doing, specifically what we're not doing. We need to be aware of how our feelings are affecting our actions. We'll speak about that in a little bit. But I use this car analogy for several reasons. I was talking about calories earlier up here, and calories in grams of carbs and protein and fat, and how many calories you have to burn, and basal metabolic rate, and then we could talk about this for 3 weeks. But the fact of the matter is, isn't it funny how if I ask every person in this room what octane gas you put in your car, you all know instantly. I use 87. I use 89. Sometimes I do a mix, 87, 89. Oh, I always use 93. It's just, everyone's got to think. But think about it. And yet, if I asked you how many calories are in the bottle of Coke that you may or may not be drinking, you know, it's very interesting how we just, you know, as humans, that we didn't come with an instruction manual. Nobody teaches us this stuff. We find out the hard way. And what's the hard way for us as we age? Time and gravity. Quite honestly, as we get older. They're our enemies. So the other thing about a car analogy that I think is very important, is, do you see the size of the windshield compared to the rear view mirror and the side view mirror? Why do you think that is? If you try and drive your car forward while looking through your windshield, supposedly, but you're focused on your rear view mirrors, the question isn't, are you going to crash? It's just when. Think about it. Our past has made us who we are, and each and every one of us has a unique past. Some of them have been through extreme adversity, maybe abuse, maybe horrible health issues since birth. Every one of us has a story. That story is important because it helps us paint our canvas, but it does not doom us. It does not shackle us. That goes for anything. That goes for your job. If you don't like your job, you're not a tree. Move. If you don't like the person you're with, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, about relationships and how toxicity can creep into our lives and destroy yours. I'm going to talk about that. But I love the car analogy for that reason. If you are focused on the rearview mirrors as you are trying to move forward, you're going to crash. It's just not possible. All right. This is a wave in Hawaii. You see these tiny little dots here? These are surfers, dude. Catching their tasty wave out here. They can't do that halfway. As I watch them, I always wanted to surf. I'm going to learn soon. But as I watch them, I realized that they can't do it halfway. I'm watching these waves because these were the waves that I had to swim through for the Hawaii Ironman. So I was scoping these things for a different reason, out of fear. These guys were scoping them because of how tasty waves they were. And what I noticed is they commit. They wait for their wave, they wait for their set, and they commit. And they start swimming for it, and they get up, and either they wipe out magnificently or get munched by this wave, or they ride. And maybe their ride is beautiful and pretty and you know, YouTube worthy, or maybe it's a disaster. But they committed to that wave. They took their shot. So one thing which worked for me when I first started the Ironman journey, which I explained in my other lectures, was committing. I signed up for an Ironman, which is swimming 2.4 miles, biking 112 miles, running a full marathon, 26.2 miles, in under 17 hours, or you're disqualified. I voluntarily subjected myself to this a year ahead of time, and I paid $650 for the right to do it. I committed, and not only did I do that, I told everyone I knew and their mothers. I put it on social media, I told everyone at work, I told my kids' friends, I told everybody, and they all looked at me like I was crazy, because I was. That's okay. But by telling other people, by committing to yourself, and by telling other people, using social media to your advantage, you can recruit like-minded people, you can garner support from other people. I'm a big fan of people posting workouts on Facebook. I do it. I tend to try and chill out about it, but at times I'm intense about it, and at times I'm just kind of like, hey, I ran, or I didn't, and I didn't post it. But the point being that find something that works for you. That works for some people. It worked for me. It doesn't work for everybody, and that's okay. But commit. Find a race. Find your Ironman. Find your whatever it is when you leave here, and commit to it, because that's the first thing. If I didn't sign up for this race, and if I didn't drop 650 large on it, and a year ahead of time I have to clear a calendar, I would have been like, well, I got to swim and bike and run and sometime next year, and I don't know, I'll figure something out. No, it doesn't get done that way. You commit to the race, you put your money down, you get the hotel, you back plan your whole calendar, you start figuring out, what do I have to do exactly between now and then to get to the starting line? That's the logical way to do it. But by committing, you do it first. I'll tell you what, going back a ways, I signed up for my first marathon before being able to even, I could only run 3 miles. But I signed up to run 26.2 miles 7 months later. People, you want to talk about crazy? People thought I was nuts, because back then I just started running, and people thought, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing exactly what I want to do. You can't do that. You got to do a 5K, and then you have to do a 10K, and you got to work your way up, and maybe do a 10 mile, and then maybe do a couple half marathons and get good at that, and then maybe no. I wanted to do a marathon. So I signed up for a marathon. People said, you're crazy, and I said, maybe I am, but I'm going to train for it appropriately, and I did. I don't think I would have held myself to that high standard of training had I not committed, is my point. And so commit to yourself, and ideally, make it public. Commit to everybody else. It will hold you accountable, and it will keep you running when you get tired and when things get hard. Okay, keep it simple. This is not a triathlon bike. This is not a $6,000 piece of carbon. This is my beach cruiser. It weighs about 40 pounds, and I look like Pee Wee Herman on it. I love this bike. I love it, I love it, I love it. It's comfortable, as you can see. It rides like I've got a big cushy seat with springs, and I sit and I ride like this, and I bounce, and it is the most comfortable bike I have ever ridden in my life compared to the ridiculous triathlon bikes that you're going to see me on. Keep it simple. All a triathlon is, in my mind, it's swim, bike, run. There's some distance involved, but those are details. The reality is, it's swim, bike, run. Who here can do that right now? So the joke is, we're all teachers and we're all grown-ups, and I ask adults, who here can swim, who here can bike, who here can run, and very few people raise their hand. I gave a talk to my son's kindergarten class, and I actually wheeled in my triathlon bike. I surprised him, he wasn't expecting me coming. And then I asked that class, so who here knows how to swim? Oh, me. Who here knows how to bike? Me. Who here can run? I could run faster than you. And you see the energy level in kids. You guys have students, right? So you see that in kids, their energy level, their hang-ups are different. They're just not there. And so they're much more willing to try new stuff. Somewhere along the way, we lost that. Whether it was society or family or obligations or work or just stress, life beating the heck out of us, we lost that sort of disinhibition. I'm encouraging you to find it again, because stuff like that video that I played for you is completely within your reach. If I can do it, trust me, you all can do it. But keep it simple. Swim, bike, run. I had to figure out how to swim, how to bike, and how to run. And so I started doing that a little bit at a time. Figure out whatever it is you want to do, figure out how to get there, draw your map and do it. Keep it simple though. The idea of keeping it simple is also that you're less apt to bail when things inevitably don't go as planned. The more complicated, like for example, your workouts are. If you're planning 8 workouts in a 7-day week, people can do that. I mean, people do that. I've done that. I've done 2-a-days at times, and I've worked it. The point is, though, if that's what you're setting yourself up for to do, and if you somehow fall short of that, you may just bail on the whole thing altogether, and it becomes an all-or-nothing proposition. Because the fact of the matter is the benefits, the gains from the stuff that we need to do, like working out and eating right and all the stuff I have written on this board over here, we don't see that tomorrow. We don't see it next week. We don't even really see it next month. It comes maybe 3 months down the road. Like the cheeseburger we eat today, you know, it's a cheeseburger. It tastes good. Why wouldn't I want to eat it? Trust me, I am not a food nut. I have cravings and desires, and I eat like crap too sometimes. Trust me. The issue is I'll make sure that I compensate for it along the way somewhere else. But the benefits from being diligent in watching what we eat and exercise, we don't see them right away. It's not instant gratification, but the cheeseburger sure is, right? Or whatever it is that's your thing that you love. So by keeping things simple, by keeping things simple, you're less apt to fail. And I say fail because it's only in our own eyes. We say, oh, I'm not losing weight. I've been eating like a rabbit for 2 weeks. I've only lost 1.5 pounds, and I hate spinach, and I'm tired of this, and you know, I'm working out, and I'm not seeing any. My clothes still fit the same, and you give up. And you're less apt to do that if you keep it simple. Okay, I love this one. So this picture is me on a real triathlon bike, in that aerodynamic position like this, which you need to stay in for about 6 to 7 hours. This is the Queen K Highway in Hawaii, where the crosswinds are about 40 miles an hour. So in this frame, I'm on the right side of that white line, and the next frame that was taken, I'm 3 feet over. The winds were you can literally blow someone off of their bike. That's how windy it was there. Anyways, the heading for this slide, treat every session as a meeting with your boss. Think about it. We all have bosses. You would never reschedule on your boss. I'm just not going to go. You want to meet tomorrow at 8 o'clock? You know what? That doesn't really work for me. So I'll tell you what. I'll call you when I'm ready to talk to you. You know what? I'm done listening to you. I'm going to just get up early. I'm going to leave early. I'm just going to walk out. There's no way any of us would do these things, right? We wouldn't put other things in front of it. We wouldn't miss it. We wouldn't be late for it. We wouldn't leave early from it. We wouldn't, after we missed it, we wouldn't give justifications on why we didn't do it. Oh, I had a bad day. I was feeling bad, so I just blew off the meeting with my boss. I was, you just do it. Why? Because it's important. Because our salaries depend on it. Our bills being paid depend on our salaries. So nobody in their right mind is going to, mess with their boss intentionally and do things like that. Well, here's the thing. Your health, that's just, I get it, but it's just your job, right? Your boss is just one external person. What we're talking about is your life, your fitness, your mental sanity, your happiness, your sense of satisfaction, your sense of well-being and balance. Think how important that is compared to just some silly meeting with your boss that you would bend over backwards not to miss. When you think of it that way, you start to think of things as an investment in yourself. You start to realize that these investments in myself, little, however you want to look at it, little drops, coins in the bank, whatever it is, they add up over time and they become consistent patterns. That is really the only difference between elite athletes, which I'm not. I'm just saying between a professional athlete, somebody who's a world caliber athlete, your weekend warriors, your ham and eggers, and your sedentary people, everybody in between, right? This is all of us we're talking about now. The only thing that separates people is how they handle stuff up here. And this is something that's working for me. Your fitness and your mental sanity is more important than a meeting with your boss. So I think we should all treat it as such. Don't plan rest days. I love this one. So I've made every mistake someone can make doing this kind of thing you can imagine, training for ridiculous stuff like Ironman. And something I noticed is inevitably life interferes with our plans. So I would, plan my workouts for the week, and I'd say, okay, well, I'm going to rest. I'm going to take a rest day, and Wednesday. But Thursday, and Thursday I'm going to go out for a really long run. But then Friday I'm going to need to recover, so I'm going to put a rest day on Friday too. So I got Wednesday I'm off, Thursday I'm going to run, Friday I'm off. So Wednesday comes and I'm off and I enjoy a rest day, and then Thursday comes and something happens, right? Your kids are home from school sick, you can't run. Something happens at work, you're working late, you can't do what you said you're going to do. And now here I am smack in the middle of rest days. I just got another rest day. So my strategy was, you don't plan rest days. They just happen. Let them happen naturally. That's called life. But if you plan in your mind to do something physical every day, that doesn't mean go to the gym. I talked about that in my other lectures, my other talks. Go for a walk. Go for a bike ride on the beach cruiser bike. Do some push-ups, sit-ups, curls. These are things that I do. I don't go to a gym. I do everything myself. I do everything. I keep it very simple. But you can work with things. If today you meant to work out, but when you got home you realize you can't go for a run or a bike, and maybe you're stuck inside, maybe you have a sick kid at home and you've got to kind of tend to other priorities first. Okay, we're going to make the most out of today. Maybe I'll do some sit-ups or push-ups today while I'm inside, and it won't be such a loss. Or if I can't, if the crap hits the fan and it's a really bad day and you can't work out, guess what? That's okay. That just became your rest day, and you don't have to feel guilty about it, and you don't have to feel like you're a failure, and you don't have to feel like you're not getting it done, and that you're mailing it in, and that you can't squeeze it all in. You just say, okay, today is my rest day, but there's 6 other days in the week for you to get it done, so that's okay. So this strategy has worked for me. I follow this pretty religiously. Okay, so this slide is to prompt me to discuss with you, focus only on things that you can control and throw out the rest. Believe it or not, this is not just a race strategy. I've learned this. Some things that I'm sharing with you I've learned in Ironman and they apply to life, and other things I've learned in life and they apply to Ironman. This is kind of both. This is planning for the Hawaii Ironman. You've got 5 bags to plan. Now, we can talk for 3 weeks now on planning for the weather in Hawaii and what happens if it rains and what happens if this and the winds on the bike course and oh my God, the heat and the humidity and this and that and there's so many things you can worry about. What can go wrong? What if I get a flat tire? What if I bonk? What if I run out of nutrition? What if I become this? What if I do? You can talk yourself in or out of anything and worry about things that you can't control. But all that is wasted time. If you only focus on things you can control, which for this race, honestly, were what I chose to put in these bags, my effort level, and my nutrition intake. And that was it. That's all you can control in an Ironman race. And so these bags are given to you at various times during the race. And if you screw up and put your bike shoes in your run bag, guess what? That's your fault. You kind of screwed up. But you can imagine showing up for, at the bike transition and not having your bike shoes. So you kind of have to think everything way ahead of time and plan it all out and practice and all that stuff. But the point being is that you need to be your ultimate banker, your ultimate accountant. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier with calories, with our intake of calories, with how many calories we need just to exist sitting here, and how many calories to actually burn if you want to lose weight and what healthy rates of weight loss are. We need to be our ultimate accountant and banker because our bodies are. The body is keeping track of the calories we're eating, whether or not our mind is. I promise you that. We all know that. And so this slide, again, is to remind you to just focus on the things you can control and let go of the rest. And like I said, you may find that that's a good strategy to use in other things. I've used it in relationships. I've used it in a lot of different areas of adversity with work and so forth. Okay, so now this is kind of the fun part. I want to focus on the top 10 tools I've selected to help you build your mental six-pack, your arsenal of coping skills. Like I've talked about, the only thing that really differentiates people especially in these athletic endeavors, are their mindset. And so I want to focus on some things that have worked for me. And again, to emphasize that it's not the absence of any of these emotions. I have fear, I have doubt, I have self-esteem issues, I have depression, I have everything that everybody in this room has. I've chosen, after years, to deal with it differently, and that's what's helped me. Number 10. Does anybody here read Eckhart Tolle? Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name right. He has a book, The Power of Now, and he has this fantastic chapter in it, and it's called You Are Not Your Mind. If anyone's read it, if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's about dissociating. It's about that he has a phrase he calls watching the thinker. You step back and you look at yourself rather than react. We react constantly. Things happen in our relationships with our kids, at work, stress, family, ourselves. We react out of emotion. We often act out of emotion. But instead of doing that, you step back and you actually watch your own thoughts. That exercise actually dissociates you from the process of reacting. You see things more clearly, and you are actually able to process things for what they really are versus what you might be afraid they are or have doubt about or fear or so forth. It's kind of a thinking clarification process that really works. I emphasize this to my kids all the time about function over feelings. We must learn as adults, as you guys know, and you deal with kids all the time, so you know this probably a lot more than I do. Regardless of your feelings, we have to function, regardless of how we feel about something. We've got to get through whatever it is, whether it's an Ironman or whether it's this lesson that you're teaching in your class with a kid that you want to strangle because he's being disruptive. Just using that as an example. But whatever it is, the adversity, the stress that's facing you, if you step back and process it differently, but yet still learn to function despite your feelings about the event, which you are entitled to. I don't deny people's feelings. I don't deny my feelings. I don't tell my kids, you shouldn't feel upset about this. I don't say you shouldn't feel sad or depressed or peer pressure or worried. Or I never deny people's feelings because they are what they are. You can't control feeling, but what you absolutely can control is how you act and how you handle yourself amidst your feelings. You literally become a master of your own emotions. That is truly one of the ultimate possessions, is self-possession. Number 9, quitting versus recognizing futility. So I have an exercise here that I'd like you to embark in with me. I'd like you all to hold your breath. Thank you. I'm going to keep talking. I'll tell you when you can let it go. So the world beats us down into thinking that quitting is a bad thing. Don't be a quitter. Don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. Nobody likes a quitter. I mean, unless it's maybe smoking or whatever. No, keep holding your breath. Nobody likes a quitter. And that if you just stick your mind to it and you just stick it out and ride it out, you can do it. Like the little engine that could, please keep holding your breath. The little engine that could, you're going to get up that hill and you're going to, okay, I'm going to stop now. You can breathe. For those of you who haven't and passed out, your brain will soon breathe for you. Why? Did you quit? Did you guys quit on the task? Your brain recognized that it was a futile and cockamamie idea to try and hold your breath indefinitely, despite how much you wanted to, despite how much you may have felt you deserved to, and that you earned the right to do so, and that your specialness entitles you to be able to do that. No human is going to be able to do that. You're going to pass out and you're going to breathe. Why? Because your brain interfered and realized you were doing something stupid. Something maybe your heart wanted to do. Follow your heart, right? Say, follow your heart. Let me tell you something. As a physician, anatomically speaking, the heart is a very stupid organ. Okay? You can follow your heart, in relationships or whatever, in your passion in life, as long as your other senses agree, your eyes, your ears, your brain, your gut, and your spine. If those 5 senses agree with what your heart is saying to do, follow your heart. But if you're getting red flags all over the place that you're avoiding for whatever reason, that's a problem. And that becomes a you problem. I say you not in an accusatory way. You as in I've been there. It becomes a decision-making problem that we choose maybe to defer to somebody else, like I started in the beginning of my talk. Anyways, quitting and recognizing futility is a huge difference between the two. If what you're doing isn't working for you, I'm begging you to change it. Because first of all, it won't change itself for you, and second of all, nobody else is going to do it for you. That goes for a lot of things. That actually leads nicely to my next slide. Number 8, shed all toxicity. What do I mean by that? If you smoke, if you drink to excess regularly and dependently, if you eat to excess, if you are addicted to drama, not only are these toxic to yourself, for example, if you continue to smoke, the quality of your life will be drastically decreased. The quality of your death will be horrible. And the people around you who love and are trying to support you the most will be destroyed. This is a fact. It's hard to talk about, but it's the truth. I'm not standing up here in a soapbox telling people to live healthy lives. The way I'm saying this is this. We are in control of the toxicity or the toxins that we put into our body and into our life, because I'm not just talking about cigarettes or booze. I'm actually talking about people. And I kind of alluded to that in an earlier slide. But you are only as healthy as your most unhealthy relationship. I want you to think about that for a minute. It's not just a partner or in a romantic way I'm talking about necessarily. Sometimes we have grown or adult children with issues, parents with issues, family, work. Trust me, I trained in an inner city hospital. I mean, doctors are nuts. There's interpersonality problems all over. The whole world has them. Everybody has them. My point is this: if you let other people's stuff, their toxicity, invade your life, it will absolutely bring you down. I'll be the first to admit, I have a block list as long as my arm on social media and personal cell phone information and stuff like that, because it got to a point where I just refused to tolerate anyone else's insanity in my life, regardless of who they were. We're getting kicked out?
Yes.
So I refused to let these people affect my lives anymore. And so I said no more, and I shut these people out. Like I said, blocked them on Facebook or whatever. Told them I'm not interested in hearing your drama anymore. There are toxic substances and there are toxic people, and they both equally have effects on your stress levels, your biological, your vital signs, and so forth. All of this chips away at you every day. So it's something I want you to think about. This is a slide I feel very strongly about. This segues into the next slide. Angst is fuel. I actually remember anyone who's ever done me wrong, anyone who's ever bullied me as a kid even, or I admittedly struggle with forgiving and forgetting. I've learned to channel all that into positive energy and into energy that I use to achieve things for myself, like physical fitness. The analogy I've used over the years, which has worked well for me, is let's say I'm running and I'm getting real tired, or there's a hill and it's hard and I just want to mail it in. And I imagine all of these people these naysayers, the incorrigible bosses, the condescending people, you all know exactly the type of people I'm talking about that at some point or another in your life you've been exposed to. Hopefully aren't anymore. But I picture them on the sidelines, and I run past them. Now, I'm not giving them any power in my mind, but to me, putting them on the sidelines motivates me, hold my head a little higher, a little more spring in my step. The important thing is I crowd the finish line in my mind with the people I care about. The people who care about me, the people who have shown me that they love and respect me, my friends, family, loved ones. Those are the people I run to. The other people I run by. You see the difference? In my mind. You can use your angst as fuel for your workouts or to drive you to achieve whatever it is you want. Instant amnesia. The greatest success stories, whether it's athletic or anything else, are in people who simply refuse. They actually actively choose not to be saddled by bad choices or bad decisions that they have made. They own them and they move on. Any Giants fans here? I'm a huge Giants fan. Huge Giants fan. Love Eli Manning. Have man love for Eli and all the Mannings. And all the Mannings. Both brothers and the father. Here's why. Let's think of all of Eli's bad throws for a moment, okay? So some of them end in interceptions. Some of them are his fault. He made bad throws. Some of them the coach's fault. They called a bad call. Some of them he didn't read the defense. Some of them are his players' fault. They didn't pick up the block. The point, some of them end in horrible sacks, and he gets off the ground picking grass from his helmet. Here's the point. Every play, he gets back in the huddle, waits for the next call to play, and just focuses right on that next throw. Doesn't matter if he just threw a goose egg. Doesn't matter if he just got shellacked. That's a skill. That's a honed skill. And no matter if you love or hate the guy, you have to respect that in somebody who can do that and function, let alone on the theater of New York sports, which may be a little critical, right? We're about our sports teams. So I use that as an example to have instant amnesia. The guy got us 2 Super Bowls doing that. He made some really, really bad decisions, but he kept focusing on the next throw. His receivers focused on the next catch, and the rest is history. All right, number 5. You will never find the time. I promise all of you. I am not different from you guys at all in any way as far as finding time to exercise. You must make the time. You will not magically have a 25th hour in the day on a certain day. It just doesn't happen. The time doesn't find you. Any spare time you have is spent with our kids, with just relaxing, putting out fires, and whatever is stressing us out for the day, whatever it is, you will not find the time. You absolutely have to make it. You have to carve it out. Make an appointment with yourself, like that other slide about a meeting with your boss. Another kind of corollary to this is make it hard for yourself. Make things harder for yourself. The little things count. It all counts. You don't just have to run a marathon in order to get in shape. Walking counts. You can park a little further away from where you need to be, and you can walk. My strategies when I was in the hospital training, I rode a folding bike, this little clown bike I had. I rode it to the hospital and carried it around with me in the hospital, and I decided I am never taking an elevator again, except to a code if I had to get to a patient's room real fast. But other than that, I took the stairs. 12-story hospital, running around like a chicken with my head cut off all day, every day. It adds up. I took the stairs, and it became like this sort of mantra, like, everyone's going to somewhere, and they're like, Lieberman's going to take the stairs, he'll meet us there. But I would try and beat them taking the elevator, and sometimes I would. Make it fun, be creative, but make it hard. You can find ways to do that. Bike to work. If you live close by, bike to work. Walk to work. Go grocery shopping with a bike and a messenger bag instead of your car. You may surprise yourself. You may enjoy yourself at the same time. But the thing that definitely matters and is important is you will never find the time. You got to make it. All right. Number 4. I love this one. We are what we do. This is something that I believe, I can't express to you in words how important this slide is to me about we are what we do. Because here's how I see things. And again, I'm just one guy, okay? I'm not preaching. But the way I see things, and in my various careers that I've had before and during med school and after, I've seen and felt some things. I honestly believe that the world truly, I mean, we're all taught that our feelings matter. Yes, your feelings matter, my feelings matter. But when it really comes down to it, the world doesn't really care how we feel. The world doesn't even really care maybe what we say, although in a teaching environment that certainly is not applicable. It certainly is applicable for what you say. Raising the future, I mean, my kids, you know what I mean? So in teaching, that definitely counts. But generally speaking, outside of the school, for example, the rest of the world, all they're really going to see is what we do with our life. They don't care about my intentions. They don't care about I meant to do this, or I wanted to do that, but I never got around to it, or this is what I say I'm going to do. Did is much more convincing than do. Past tense, I did this. Not, you know, not I may do this or I'm thinking about this. My point is that it's our actions. It's our actions, it's what we do that not only matters to everyone else, but this is the real important part. It differentiates us between who we are right now and who we want to be. The thing that bridges these two things together, all it is what we choose to do. The time is going to pass either way. My mother told me that when I told her I thought I'm too old to go to medical school. The time is going to, it really is, it's going to pass either way. You may as well invest in yourself and do whatever it is to get you to where you want to be. The action word there is do. Not think or write about or say. Again, with the exception with the children that we teach, I'm talking more about our personal goals. We are what we do. And honestly, no one ever promised us that it's going to be easy. No one ever promised us that what we have to do to get where we want to be is going to be easy or fun or not painful. No one ever said that to us. And honestly, I do have a bone to pick with the people or kids, and I'm on my kids like white on rice about this, about people who kind of have this expectation that things are supposed to be easy and we're all supposed to always have good feelings and things just come to people. And, you know, if you don't have to work hard and you know, you guys know as teachers that there's an epidemic of that attitude sometimes in certain populations of just groups that you're in, of people. And that attitude can be pervasive and very negative. We are what we do, we own it. It's our responsibility to do things and earn things. That kind of leads to number 3. I don't really think I need to say much about this slide, which is why I included it. This gentleman is Scott Rigsby. He is the first double amputee to finish the Hawaii Ironman. Not 1, 2 prosthetic legs. Did the same distance that I did in the same time constraints. Double amputee, swam 2.4 miles, biked 112, ran a full marathon in under 17 hours. People probably told him along the way he couldn't do it too. It's been said, you know, I mean, you scroll through your social media in the morning and you sprain your thumb looking at all these memes with neat little sayings about, there's a lot of neat sayings out there, but truly one of the ones that I love is you're either going to find a way or you're going to find an excuse. Whatever it takes. That's what I think of when I look at him. I think whatever it takes. Okay. So in all that you do, in your life, in your relationships, in your work, in your love, the important thing is to show up, is to be there, not just for the people around you or the people you say you are there for, but for yourself. If you don't show up for yourself, how can you possibly be there for other people? And by showing up for yourself, I mean doing the things that we talked about, by getting out of your own way, like we've been talking about all these premises. Investing in your health, making good decisions, making time to work out, having a positive attitude, infecting others with your positive attitude, helping other people. All these things involve being there for yourself and making the most of your moment to get you to the starting line. I again submit the hardest part of that stuff, Ironman stuff, is not getting to the finish line. It's actually getting to the starting line. Getting to the starting line is very, very difficult. The finish lines tend to kind of take care of themselves once you're there, believe it or not. But it's the hardest step of a run is the first step out the front door. It really is. It's getting started. And so that's why we have Wellness Day probably to begin with, right? This day is meant as a spark to spark people, enthusiasm and rekindles people's interest in investing in themselves again. There's 86,400 seconds in every day. They expire at midnight. And guess what? This is a bank that holds no balance, that you cannot get a loan from. It carries no interest. You lose it at midnight. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do with those 86,400 seconds? I respectfully submit that whatever you decide to choose to do with it, do it. Be there. Don't mail it in. Do it wholeheartedly. Show up. That's what this slide is about. That's slide number 2. And lastly, the last one. This is me absolutely melting down on Ali'i Drive during the run in the Hawaii Ironman. When I say I was in a dark place at this moment, there aren't even words to describe the heat, humidity, everything had taken its toll on me at this point. At this point, there was one of two things that was going to happen. I was going to end up in the ICU, or I was going to finish this race. And I decided that it was going to be the latter. What you see here is me holding my hat full of ice cubes from the last aid station. Holding ice cubes in this hand, which what you don't see is I was rubbing them on my carotid arteries and shoving them down my pants to ice my femoral arteries, trying in desperation to cool my core temperature, because I knew that if I don't cool off and take a break and cool my core temperature, I was going to end up in the ICU. That's how hot it is, and that's how real it is. And I did not fly 3 airplanes, $1,100 worth of plane tickets, and an 11-hour plane flight to start the Hawaii Ironman to freaking end up in the ICU. No way, no how. Every step forward while you are handling your issues counts. It brings you nearer than further. That's the saying my grandma used to say. It's nearer than further. It's going to be the name of my book. It's going to be where I'll focus. I'll show you a website in a second that you can contact me on if you'd like for information. But the nearer than further phrase is very important to me, and it's very near and dear to me, because an Ironman is 140.6 very, very long miles that you have to negotiate by yourself. You can get no help. You can get disqualified for even taking a cup of water from somebody on the sidelines who isn't part of the race. How applicable for life, right? Think about it. I mean, it's not that extreme necessarily, but we all have adversity that we have to overcome. We all have stress. Each and every one of you are going to walk out of that door and you're going to go, okay, it's back to, that was great, but it's back to reality now. What do I have to do? The kids are coming home now and I got to do this. I got to get dinner ready. I got to go grocery shopping. I got to do this. And we're supposed to do this tonight and I couldn't. And then tomorrow I got this thing at work. And then this weekend my family's supposed to come in. I get it. I'm there too. We all have this. But what's going to differentiate you from the person maybe who you were when you walked in this afternoon is what you're going to do with it when you leave here. Thank you.
Good
Oh, the essay.
It's inspiring. It's been, of course.
They're good things.
Take care.
All right.
Okay. Jesus.